What's up everyone, and welcome back to the 13th tutorial in our Python 3.6 video series. In this video we're going to be discussing keyword arguments. It's 4.7.2 in the documentation if you're following along. In this one, what I'm going to do is a little bit different because there's so much code in here that instead of typing it all out, I'm going to basically copy and paste and then explain it after I've put it in there. And so the first one we're starting off with is a function where they define parrot and then they're given one positional argument that doesn't have a predefined value like we showed in the last video, and then it's also going to have 3 additional arguments which already have default values. So it's state, Asterisk, action, voom, type, Norwegian. And so we're going to show, like in the last one, because the rest of these already have default values, we only need to define voltage. So if we do 1000, then it functions correctly and it plugs in 1000 and all of the rest of the values with no problem. But then we also have the ability to define the other ones using what's called the keyword argument. So we can do something like this, where we explicitly state we want to set voltage to 1 million and we want to set action equals to voom. And so we can pick specifically which one we want to assign. So we can run this and we can show it works. It plugged in voom correctly. And we can do it in whichever order we want. So we can do state equals not a stiff. And so you see it overwrote the default argument and it's not a stiff now. And so this is different than what we were doing before, because before what we would have done is we just would have been stuck with 1000, voom, and not a stiff. And it would pass them in, but it would do them in all the wrong order, because 1 million was going to go to voltage, voom was going to go to state, and not a stiff was going to go to action. But if you look at what it did when we defined them, it went specifically to the ones that we were looking for. So voltage went here, action went there, state went there. So we could do them in whatever order we want and it would go to the correct spot. One thing to note though is you can't do positional arguments after keyword arguments. So I can't do voltage equals 1 million and then just voom. I have to, like the error says, you have to do your positional arguments first and then your keyword arguments after. And then I'm going to move on to our next example. This one has a function defined as cheese shop. And so what we see here is we have one positional argument, and then we have this weird thing where they put an asterisk and then it says arguments, and then double asterisk and it says keywords. And so I'm going to copy and paste the call, and then I'm going to explain exactly what that does. So what we see here is we see Limburger, it's very runny, sir. It's really very runny, sir. And then we see some what looks kind of like keyword arguments like from before, except for instead of being up here, they're actually placed in the call. So what this is going to do is the first argument is going to go to kind. That's exactly like we were used to. But then what this asterisk arguments does is it means every single list item after that is going to be an argument. So it's going to find it's very runny, sir, it's really very runny, sir, and those are going to become the arguments. I'm going to run this so you guys can see what it does. So basically it plugged in Limburger, and then it printed out Limburger again, and then it took both of the arguments from that list of arguments, and then it printed out the keyword arguments in this format. And so the way this works, like I was saying, is it can go to any amount that you want. So I could add an additional one that says it is super runny. And then if we look at this code right here, we can see where most of it is coming from. So in this one, it's just going to flat out print the argument. And so it is super runny is going to be added into that list of things that it just flat out prints. Then if we look at the keyword arguments down here, it first prints out 40 of the dashes, and then it takes the keyword using a for loop, and it prints out the keyword value, or the key itself, and then it prints the value of the key from that dictionary, basically. So the way this works is these are sort of like lists with a single asterisk, and then these are sort of like dictionaries, if you want to think of it that way. And so what we can actually do is we can take these and we can turn them into an actual list. So let's put these above. I'm just going to put it as list 1 equals all of that. I'm going to fix the formatting a little bit. That should be fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it through with an asterisk and then just list 1. And what we're going to see is it functions exactly like it did before. So if we have a list and we have a bunch of items in it, but maybe we're not sure how many items or it's too many items to explicitly state each one, we can just use this asterisk arguments, and then we can do asterisk whatever item we want to pass through, and then it will pass all of those through. And we can also do something similar with the dictionary items. So I can remove that, go back up to the top, and I'll do dict1 equals just have to fix some of the formatting first. And then like we did before, we're going to do double asterisks and then dict1, and then we'll see what happens. And then we see it runs exactly like we did before. So it's the same thing where if you have a dict and you don't know how long it is, or you don't know specifically which elements you want, you can just pass through the whole thing using the double asterisks, and then it will pass through correctly. And so another thing to note, like we did with the previous one, is we need our positional arguments first, we need our single asterisk arguments second, and then we need our keyword arguments as second, or third rather, or else it won't function. So if I put these second, then it won't run because it needs to follow the correct order. That's going to be it for our 13th tutorial. In our next tutorial, we're going to be discussing arbitrary argument lists and unpacking those argument lists.